I'm thrilled to now introduce one of our keynote speaker, our next one, and that's Sharon Weinstein. And let me begin by asking a few questions. So, do you wish that you could be unforgettable and make a difference? Could you use great ideas to deliver service excellence? Are you ready to move from ordinary to extraordinary? So if you answered yes to any of those questions, then you are in for a treat today. Sharon is a global nurse leader. She's received the Dr. Thomas Frist Senior Humanitarian Award from HCA, recognizing a level of commitment and caring that goes beyond everyday kindness. Sharon has over 30 years of progressive clinical, education, administrative, and healthcare policy experience in healthcare management and clinical practice. A former nurse magnet appraiser, she has studied the role of engagement and service excellence on outcomes and safety for 15 years. A native of Philadelphia, Sharon completed her nursing education at Pennsylvania Hospital, followed by undergraduate and graduate degrees in nursing, behavioral science, and healthcare administration in Florida and Texas. She's a graduate of the Kellogg Executive Management Program and a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. Now, she is only one of 3 nurses who hold that fellow as well as certified speaking professional designation in the world. She is a clinical assistant professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, past president of the Infusion Nurses Society, and past chair of the Infusion Nurses Certification Corporation. Sharon serves as professional advisory board of Purdue University for the last 12 years. As former director of Premier, their international affairs office, she served as the U.S. advisor to the Kremlin Hospital for 12 years, creating the renowned Foreign Patient Department. Sharon knows that service excellence is not a fad or a promotion. It is for everyone, every day. Help us today to put the wow into outcomes. Please join me in welcoming Sharon Weinstein. Okay.
Happy to be here with all of you. You've had a really, really busy day, haven't you? And now you see something up there that says, what business are we in? After all that you've seen and all that you've heard from Marvin and from Doug and from Brad and from others, what business are you in? What is the business that we're in? Let's have a shout out. Tell me, what business are we in? Oh. Service. We are in the service industry, whether we like to know it or not. Before I finish telling you about what business you're in, I want to tell you what happened to Jim Lovell. Jim Lovell and his son opened a restaurant in Lake Forest, Illinois. It's one of the most magnificent things you've ever seen. It's 3 stories high, and Jim Lovell himself made rounds on Friday evenings when you ate there and went to every table and welcomed everyone to his place. Because he was Jim Lovell, he did not have to wait for a liquor license for his restaurant. After all, look who he was. And the restaurant is still open and is still lovely and is still magnificent. And on the top floor, after you've dined either inside or out, although there aren't a lot of takers for outside in the winter in Chicago, but it happens, on the 3rd floor is the most magnificent museum of that flight, that shuttle, that experience than you've ever seen, and they're his own personal archives. So if you ever get the opportunity to be in Chicago and to go north about 26 miles to Lake Forest off the lake, be sure that you make a reservation to dine at Lovell's. It is, in fact, an experience, and he knows what business he's in. So the reason I ask about what business we're in is because basically we're all here for the same purpose. We are here for a reason. That movie that you just saw, yes, he said he cries. I've seen that movie over 30 times, and I cry each and every time. I was close to tears as I waited to come on stage. It moves me in such a way And I'm sure that it does the same to you. So before I start, I want to ask you, have you ever been a patient? Not have you known a patient, have you ever been a patient? If you've been a patient, sway to the right. Sway your body to the right. And if you've never been a patient, stretch and sway your body to the left. And then look around you. Many of you at one time or another have been a patient, perhaps for something that's nondescript or that should have been minor. Maybe it was a tonsillectomy and the person bled. Maybe it was something else. But at all times, don't ever forget the fact that we are in a business, and that business is indeed powerful. So the business that we're in is service excellence. It's hospitality. It's transportation. It's engagement. It's IT. It is all of the above, and it all stems to service excellence. And why wow? Because every single thing that we do in life has an outcome. We get our car fixed, and for some reason, I don't know if this happens to you, but it sure seems to happen to me, something else is broken that wasn't broken when you took it in. Or have you ever heard the story about the person who had their dry cleaning? And they picked up the dry cleaning and there was a spot on it, and they said, but the spot wasn't here when I brought it in. You must have put a spot on it. And the person is thinking, well, if there were no spots on it, why did you bring it in the first place? Just to refresh it? So there's always some circumstance. I remember one time having a car with a rear view mirror, and it was so many years ago. It was a car that we actually had on some sort of a payment plan. And the day that we made the last payment, the rear view mirror fell off the window. The side mirrors fell off the car. Who knows whatever else was going to go wrong with it, because it was paid for and was no longer under warranty. Has that ever happened to you? The day that something broke. I had a wine cooler once that I didn't realize in a house that I had in Illinois, and I didn't know that it had a 1-year warranty. And 1 year plus 1 day, the thermostat no longer worked, and it was gone. Fortunately, the person from whom I bought it was a personal friend, and he took control of the situation and replaced it. But not everyone is going to do that. So look at the business that we're in. It's these and all of the above. And every single person, not just the clinical person who cares for the patient physically, but every single one of you and your people are in this business. It doesn't matter if they're housekeeping or if they're biomed engineering. It really doesn't matter. Every one of us is in that same business. So service is so much more than a meal, isn't it? You heard in the huddle discussion about perhaps the patient doesn't like his or her meal today. What can we do today to make it that much better? It's more than a room. It might not be a room with a view. My husband was recently a patient in a hospital 3 weeks ago, and his room with a view was the engineering department right outside his window, and they were constructing the new building next door. So his room with a view came with 7 men who looked in at him all the time. It's more than a sale. It's more than the 50% off annual sale at Nordstrom, where if you show up on the last day, there's nothing left. It's so much more than a sale. And what it really is that people want to be treated well. What does it take for people to be treated well? I gave an example before to a colleague with whom I was sitting, and I said, we had a patient from Salt Lake City, Utah, who came with a tour of elderly people to Moscow, Russia. And on the first day of the tour, she broke her hip. She wound up in our hospital. She was more concerned about getting souvenirs for her 19 grandchildren than she was about the fact that she was in a Russian hospital, hello, and that maybe she would need surgery, and maybe the surgeon didn't communicate in English, and what would she do? And how would she get home, and how would she survive? It was really all about the grandkids and the shopping list. And fortunately, we provided exemplary service. One of our administrative people took pictures and the ages of her kids and went out and bought all the grandchildren's some sort of a souvenir from Russia. I called a colleague of mine who worked for BD in Salt Lake City and said, can you pick up this woman's dog at the kennel and take him back to your farm for a few weeks and take care of him? And then I called a friend of mine who was in home care in Salt Lake, who flew from Salt Lake to Chicago to meet the woman when her plane arrived and accompanied her home. That is outstanding service, going the extra mile. Would it happen every day, everywhere, every way? It's something that we want in this country, in this city, in this state. And everywhere else we practice through CHI and Dignity and CommonSpirit to be a commonality across all boundaries so that we're all doing the same thing all of the time. So it's about accountability. And I think you know that just okay is not okay. If you watch any TV at all, and I try not to, except for Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med, only because I know that it's impossible for them to go the distance from the south side of Chicago to Highland Park within 13 seconds. It would be like going from Hobby to George Bush in less than 10 minutes. It's not happening, folks. So I get a laugh out of it when I do watch it. But if you watch TV and you see a commercial, and you look at that commercial, you understand the fact that there's a doctor who comes into a patient's room. The patient's a little concerned about his impending surgery. Patient says to the nurse, "What about this doctor? Is he good?" And what does the nurse say? "He's okay." And the patient says, "Just okay?" And she says, "Yes, he's okay." And just then, this doctor struts into the room, and he says, "Guess what? I just got readmitted to the medical staff. I'm so excited about the fact that now I'm on the staff and now I can see patients and I can treat them and I can cut them and I can do other things." And he says to the patient, "Sir, are you nervous?" And the patient says, "Yes." And doctor says, "Well, so am I." And he struts back out of the room, and the patient is wondering, is just okay really okay? It is not okay. Not today, not ever. We need to be so much better than okay. So what I'd like you to do, because we have several polls during this session, is to go on your devices to www.menti.com and use the code 362104. Grab your phone, go to the site, and enter that code. Then we'll be in a great position. Look at this. Somebody from the stage is saying to you, pick up those devices. I'm not saying scan your email or send a text. I'm saying only participate. So when was the last time that you did something that directly helped a patient or a family member? Was it last week? Was it yesterday? Was it last year? Tell me when that was, and let's look at our numbers. The last time you did something that helped a patient or family member. We have a year ago. That's interesting. Maybe it's a family member for whom you don't care. I have some family members like that. I think we all do. So basically, we're looking at a really high number for yesterday. Yesterday, no matter where you were, no matter what department you work in, for one moment or for 10 minutes or for 1 hour or for some designated period of time, you did something that helped somebody, that directly helped someone. Be proud of yourselves. So I want to tell you a story about pain. Anybody here ever been in pain? There's a patient in the hospital. The patient's had neurosurgery. He's had a significant amount of pain. There were a lot of complications. A lot of things went wrong. He went back to the OR 2 times. He was in pain. The nurses are rounding. The nurses come in, and what do they say to him? "What is your pain level?" However, when the nurses are asking what his pain level is, are they talking directly to the patient? Are they looking at the patient? No. One of them is on the computer typing things in, and the other one is talking to her. And they're saying, basically to one another, "What is your pain level?" But the patient's over here. Was the patient left out of the picture? A bit, right? And the patient says 6 and doesn't think about it again until the next round. And they'll come in, and I trust you, trust me, they'll ask the same question. So service is intangible. The tangible things are the bricks and mortar that folks talked about today. We all have bricks and mortar. We all have buildings. Heaven knows during Harvey we lost a lot, but we all have bricks and mortar. But more important than bricks and mortar, more important than a fancy building, more important than any of that is the human side of healthcare. The emotions that you saw and that you felt in that Cleveland Clinic video. It tugged at your heart, or at least at mine. It made me quiver. It made me feel. It made me remember why I became a nurse in the first place. And although the bricks and mortar where I went to school were built in 1751, that's old. Founded by Benjamin Franklin, that's old. The bricks and mortar still stand, and they still exemplify the same spirit of excellence and the same spirit of caring that they did many, many years ago. So we need to think about it from a standpoint of emotions and behaviors and feelings and perceptions, because every single person on the opposite side of that bed is someone's family member, and that person could be your family member. In a discussion with some of your colleagues, we talked a little bit about nurses, quote, burying their young. I'm sure you've heard all about that. Nurses have been saying it for years. Nurses bury their young. Well, guess what? It's time to stop burying our young, because that young are the people who are going to be on the opposite side of the bed taking care of you and of me and of others in our family for whom we care. So it's time to stop that process and treat everyone with kindness, because it takes less muscles to be kind and to smile than it does to frown and be grumpy. Let's keep in mind that human side. So how do we move from good to great? I don't know if you're familiar with the book, Good to Great, but you can actually move from good to great. How do you get to greatness? How do you get to that gold standard? How do you empower your staff? How do you empower and support management so that they follow the mission and the vision and the culture and everyone is on that same page? You do it by removing the box. There cannot be a box. It's not about thinking outside the box, because the box doesn't exist. When I was learning to play golf at age 50, we were on the course one day and my husband said, look at that water hole and think about how you're going to manage it. And my comment was, water? What water? I don't see any water. And I went ahead and cleared the water. Heaven knows how. But it was all about mindset. When Tiger Woods won the Masters again a week ago or so, that was huge. He went at it knowing in his mind that this is what he was going to do, and he was going to win that Masters, and he was going to have that ugly green jacket, and he was going to wear it with pride, and it didn't matter, because this was something that to him was big. So it's getting rid of the box altogether, because the box doesn't exist. It's not about trying. I ask you to think about Hertz. Does everybody know Hertz Rent-A-Car? Does everybody know Avis Rent-A-Car? While Hertz was trying, Avis did it. And while Avis was doing it, Enterprise came along and put them all to shame. It's not just about trying. It's about doing and doing it. So when you think about great, who comes to mind? For me, it's Nordstrom. They go the extra mile. They do what it takes. They do whatever is needed to make something happen, and we'll talk about that. It's also Disney, and we'll talk about that and why. Is there anyone here who has never been to Disney? Because maybe your boss will give you a free trip. You deserve it. Everybody needs to go to Disney because they have a 70% return rate. If you've been there once, 70% of the time, you come back for more because of that great experience. Is it Southwest? Yes. I spoke at a meeting last year where the CEO from Southwest was there, and he gave every person in the audience, 5,000 of us, 2 $100 gift cards to fly Southwest. Do you think he converted any of us, especially those loyal to American who have 9 million American miles and 1 million Aeroflot miles? Maybe. I'm flying Southwest. Maybe. Or Amazon. Amazon does everything. Now I see that they sell clothing. They do the same things that Cabby and all of those other online programs do, and they too sell clothing. So let's look first at that Nordstrom way. I really love Nordstrom's. For those who don't know, Nordstrom started as a small shoe store in Seattle, Washington. My daughter came along and she bought them out. I'm only kidding. She does have a closet, though, that has 100 pair of boots, all short, all black, custom made. She loves black boots. She loves Nordstrom. They do whatever it takes. They empower their people to do whatever it takes. When you read the Nordstrom Way book, it talks about a woman who didn't have at her store what someone wanted to buy. She said, just a minute, can you just wait a few minutes? I'll be right back. She went to Macy's or someplace else. She bought it. She brought it back and sold it to the woman. She went above and beyond whatever it would take to get it done, because nothing is ever, ever, ever too much. Nothing is too much. And if in doubt, this isn't like my IV business when I used to say, if in doubt, whip it out and start all over again. It's not that. But if in doubt, do more. And that's the way Nordstrom functions, and that's what makes them so exemplary. So let's look at pure magic. Good old Tinkerbell. What is she, as old as Barbie now? She's been around a really long time, hasn't she? She's been around a long time. What makes Disney so great? Part of it is the greeting. Every single person welcomes you in their khaki pants and golf shirt when you come in. They make you feel welcome. They want you to be there. They're excited that you're there. There are contact points. As you're walking around in one of their theme parks, people who work there come up to you. Is everything okay? Do you need anything? Is there someplace I can give you directions? Is there something you'd like? Is there something you need? Do you need a stroller? What would you like? Let me find it for you. Let me get it for you. It's the service recovery. If something goes bad, they have a plan. Because let's face it, in the service business, things go bad, don't they? We can't control everything. Sometimes they go down the tube, but we need a plan to make them better. Their body language is absolutely outstanding. No one is standing like this with arms folded saying, don't approach me. They're giving a welcoming greeting. They're saying, come on in. Come on and experience the magic of Walt Disney, the magic of what we have here and why we call it the Magic Kingdom. So the experience is exponential, and they always say thank you. When you leave, they stamp your hand to see if you want to come back in. But if you're not coming back in, it's thank you for visiting us. The shuttle that takes you back to your car, it's thank you for riding with us. It's thank you for being with us. How many times when people are discharged from the hospital do we say, thank you for being here, and gosh, I hope your insurance pays your bill? We don't say that. We don't say that at all. But I'm sure at one point or another we've thought about it. So you heard about structure, and you heard about process, and you heard about operations, and you heard about the plan and the strategic plan for your organization, and it should make you proud. But I think all of you have some sort of a GPS, either in your car or perhaps on your phone. It tells you where you're going and how to get there. I use it a lot in strange cities to find my way back to a hotel. I was talking to Laura yesterday, and I said, well, I'll be back at the hotel shortly. I went for a walk. And I had no idea where I was walking. It turned out I walked all the way over to a mall, which was quite a walk, because on the way back, as we were riding on the elevator, I hit my 10,000 steps. And I got really excited. It must have been a really long walk. And I used the GPS to get back. But the GPS is more than directions. It's about the goals. It's about the process. It's about programs and plans, and it's about the strategies and the systems that we need to have in place to allow us to reach those lofty goals. Because without a plan, we have nothing. Because we now live in a brave new healthcare world. You heard about not the future, but the present, and what's on the horizon for healthcare. About population health versus healthy populations. About engaging and enhancing and empowering yourselves and others to be their very best, to deliver the best care, to provide the best outcomes, and to do what is needed to make your system shine, to make people leave and want to come back, not for another illness, but for some other encounter, because they trust you. How many times today have you heard the word trust? So in order to prepare for this, I really wanted to know who your people are. And Laura was great, and she gave me the names of about 30-some people who I called. And I spoke to lots of people and asked them a series of questions about their experiences in working for your organization. And I'm going to invite them now to join me. So Paula Thomas, Sally Luber, and Margaret Cecil, come on down. Ladies, and I don't know how they all turned out to be women. Trust me, I spoke to a lot of men, but somehow the answers that they gave just resonated. And when I was asking the questions about would you be willing, they were the first to say yes. So I'm going to ask them a series of questions that are basically the same kinds of questions that I asked everyone on the phone. So the first question dealt with the concept of what are the top concerns? What are the key words that you think of when you think about your role within CHI and your future? And these were the consistent words that came across from every single person who responded. They were things like collaborate, and consistency, and compassion, and communicate, and healing, and holistic, and high reliability, and heartfelt care, and improvement in IT, and integrity, and impact. And isn't it interesting how it spells CHI? So I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about those key words. And I want to first address that question to Paula. Okay? And I'm glad that you could make it. Glad that you're here. Paula, the words that you gave were time, people, and process. Tell me about that. Tell them about that.
Hi, everyone. People. I think people are the fundamental aspect of our business. Not only do we service people, but we are the people that are rendering these services. It is important that we acknowledge our clients, one, but also and appreciate our clients. But we also need to acknowledge and appreciate ourselves, the caregivers. We are very important in administering that care. They have to be happy. Happy people make happy employees, right?
And happy employees provide happy care.
And happy
You've got it.
employees
Okay.
provide happy, optimal care. Now, processes. Our processes have to be such that we're able to give that care in a manner where it's easily received, it's easily implemented, it's easy to give those care so that, I'm trying to find the right words here, so that the recipients of care, it has to be easy. Basically, the processes need to be easy. And the other thing we talked about was time.
Time.
There is just so much sometimes that we impart on our people. We change our processes very frequently. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of thinking about what I really need to say. We have a lot of, the great thing about our hospital or hospital is that we are always trying to improve our processes. And in improving those processes, we need to pause for a moment and implement those processes such that it affects, it's easy and it does not affect the time and the people. And sometimes we implement so many processes so fast and so frequently that we don't have enough time to evaluate those processes. And when we don't evaluate those processes, sometimes things happen and we say, we're great in saying, hey, let's look at this. How can we fix it? But do we need to fix it, or do we need to evaluate the process to see, do we need to change or do we need to improve the process? And so sometimes we change those processes so fast that we're just imparting on our frontline people one after another process, and they don't have the time to pause and spend with these patients because they spend so much time improving the processes. Am I making sense?
You made perfect sense. Let's move on to what your greatest asset is. Across the board, most people chose communication, great communicators, great knowledge base, compassion, commitment, enthusiasm, and transformational leadership. I'm going to ask you, Sally, because you talked about enthusiasm being infectious. Now, we're not talking about measles in Detroit or in Pikesville, Maryland. We're talking about being infectious right within her own department, and this is a good infection to catch. Tell us about it.
Hi, everyone. Prior to my healthcare career, I was told I had infectious enthusiasm. I do avoid infections at this point. Let's face it, I have been told many times before that my job might be the most boring in the division. I'm vice president of accounting, by the way.
It's boring.
And anyone could do my job, but I come into my job every day laughing and smiling. I talk to every one of my team members. They know that they matter to me. They matter to you. We help you make better decisions. And, you know, I like to impart a sense of humor at work. When I had an admin, she used to always joke that she knew I was in the office because I laugh a little bit like a hyena, so she could tell I was in the office. But we have fun, and we have fun. We continue to come back despite all of the challenges and changes we're going through. My team, we're all invested in this organization, and we're going to continue to come back and continue to provide excellent service to all of you. So that is the greatest asset that I have for CommonSpirit, my non-infectious enthusiasm.
Thank you. Okay, so you heard us talk about the concept of transformation, transformational leadership. What is a transformational leader? A transformational leader is all of you. It's somebody who's honest and open and transparent. It's somebody who is ready, who has a plan and is willing to step outside that box that doesn't exist and take action. It's acknowledging the situation, process, not the professional. If there's a mistake, using this as a learning opportunity. These and more are signs and symbols synonymous with the whole concept of transformational leaders. So then I asked a question about what gets in the way, and again we had lots and lots of responses. Not surprising at all, the first one on everybody's list was technology. I heard things like the software comes from one place and the hardware comes from another, and they don't quite talk to one another. I did hear something that said that at Dignity, they had a system that seems to work, and we're so excited about the capability and the possibility of using that type of a system within hours and allowing this to be something system-wide that will totally transform the way we do things. Of course, staffing was a challenge for many people, especially if you're hiring for performance excellence and you'd rather not take those people who are highly qualified but who don't give a darn about people, and you'd rather have someone with a smile on their face who practices safely and can learn a few more skills but truly, truly, truly cares. That's how you grow your own and develop the best. Resources were a challenge. And of course, the change process that is associated with mergers, with acquisitions. I was part of one myself when Premier within 1 week became Premier and then merged with American Healthcare Systems and with Sun Health. 1 week, 3 totally different systems and a little bit of faith, but not even the same faith. It made it much more challenging. So what I'd like you to do, Sally, is tell me about competing priorities.
Oh, I didn't know I was going to be asked that.
Mm-hmm.
I did comment that we do have a lot going on in the Texas division specifically. Those of you in the finance supply chain world know about a little project called CHI Connect. Mm-hmm. So you have that going on. At the same time, you have the Dignity and CHI merger, CommonSpirit. We have finance transformation going on. You have so many things going on that there are days that you walk in and you almost feel paralyzed. You don't know what to tackle first, so you wait till your boss calls and you answer his question first. But it really does paralyze you to the point of, I don't know what to do, and we need to make sure that we don't get to that level of inactivity. You know, you have to tackle things one thing at a time. I honestly have a simple recurring task on my calendar every day that I know I'm going to do. So at the end of the day, I can say I have accomplished something. I think I shared this with you when we spoke. I have a goal to help one person every day. I'm
Great
very
goal.
jealous of all of you clinicians. I don't get to directly impact patient lives, but I do work with a lot of you. All of you might think I'm VP of Accounts Payable, so I've answered a lot of those questions. But if I can help one person a day, I've made a difference, and that helps me get through that paralysis of all of our competing demands.
And will you be busy with calls tomorrow? Because every single person needs a little bit of your time and a little help.
Probably.
Margaret, tell us about resources. You talked about Dynamap. You talked about integration with Epic. And you talked a little bit about a conference in Las Vegas as well. Tell us about that.
Am I on?
You
there
are.
It is. So when we think about integration, we've already talked a lot today about working smarter. So what's the technology for the future that obviously we'll have to partner with our finance team to obtain? But to be able to work smarter, to have our people working at top of license all the time, for EVS, for our techs, for our nurses, for our APCs, and for our physicians, that truly we're able to have things like Dynamaps that integrate with Epic so that we're able to catch patients that might be getting septic. If we have to wait for 2 hours for a tech to input those vital signs, it might be 2 hours before that BPA in Epic. That's smart, right? But it might be 2 hours before we see that BPA, and it alarms us to say this patient might be getting septic. So it's things like that that would allow us to work smarter to be able to take better care of our patients and truly deliver exceptional patient care. I also talked a little bit about connection to purpose, and at our meeting in Las Vegas, for those of you that were able to attend, I really felt like we connected to purpose with the closing ceremony to really think about why we come and we do this work every single day. And for me, it was what the opening was all about. It was about passion. We all have passion for this amazing work, and that's why we come and do work that is hard and is sometimes not rewarding in the way that we ever expected it to be, but truly the patients that we serve and that we're entrusted to serve, we have that honor each and every day and that passion to come to work and be able to provide that amazing care.
Thank you. So the next question we had was, why are you here? It was a combination question that really dealt with the concept of why do people come to CHI for care, and why are you personally here? And while there were lots of responses, although the question doesn't want to come up, but that's okay. While there were lots of responses to those questions, the most profound answer probably came from Paula. And the answer that is on the slide that you cannot quite see is what? I would not work here if I didn't want to come here for care. Do you feel that way about the facility in which you're working? Do you feel that way? This is CommonSpirit Health, and this is truly what it's all about. So let's pull out those phones again. Yes, it's time for another text, but this time you'll be polling. And let's look at that next question. And the question was, what defines CHI Texas? And the responses, look at them: culture, team, community, mission. Have you heard the word mission at all today? Has it stuck with you so that you understand the true mission of your organization and what makes it powerful and what makes it important and what makes it work? It really is about the concept of I wouldn't work here if I didn't want to come here for care. And thank you for that. That's really a strong statement. But we're at over 52, 53% for mission. So definitely that's where we are. Service excellence is everyone's job. You see people here representing different departments, but the people with whom I spoke on the phone also represented multiple departments, multiple service lines. Every one of them understood that service excellence was their job. So it doesn't matter if you're the public policy coordinator, the relationship builder, the contract coordinator, the service provider, the information broker, the change agent. This is in everyone's job description. Everyone is every one of these things. If you saw someone floundering for where they were going in the hallway, would you help them out and give them directions? Of course you would. You wouldn't say, "Excuse me, that's not my job." I was saying that the other day in a doctor's office, a woman was waiting for her husband to come out of the men's room, and he had just had knee surgery, and she couldn't find her way to the elevator, and it was clear to me that English was not her first language. It happens to be mine. And when she didn't know where she was going and she kept talking about the lift, I knew she wanted to find the elevator. And I very promptly answered with my 4 days of Russian language studies, "Izvinite меня, пожалуйста, прямо направо налево," which means go straight, turn right, and turn left. Was it beautiful? No. But it worked, and it got her where she needed to go, and I felt empowered because I had helped someone, and she had a big grin on her face, probably at my horrific accent. And it's a good thing I didn't send her back to the ladies' room from the men's room. Who knows where I was sending her, but I know that I sent her to the lift. So it's everybody's job. Everybody is here for that same purpose. It is every single one of our jobs, of our roles. So let's now look at that next slide, because this is not functioning the way it's supposed to. The next steps are, how do you get there? You adjust your strategy, you change your course, and you transform the situation. Can you do that? Can you do that each and every day when you come to work? Adjust your strategy and do what needs to be done. Change course if you need to change course, the same way that if you were driving and there was an accident ahead and you weren't involved in that accident or staying to help someone, you would detour and then transform that situation. So there are 5 ways in which we can transform. There's reliability, there's assurance, there's empathy, there's responsiveness, and tangible. And let's look at those very briefly. When we look at reliability, we're talking about delivering on your promise and promising what you can, in fact, deliver. Don't promise something that you cannot deliver. Don't promise that you'll have that birthday cake made by 4 o'clock if you know there's no way you can go home, buy the ingredients, put it in the oven, throw it all together, ice it, and then serve it. It's not going to happen that way. When my daughter used to sign me up for cookie day in junior high school, and I was working at a medical school, I would walk into the kitchen of the medical school and purchase cookies that they would throw in the oven for me from the freezer and give me a tray full of cookies, and I would bring them home and look like the good mom who sat there all day long possibly baking cookies. Instead, I bought cookies from a Marriott contractor. That was the way that I got through, her promising what there was no way that I could ever deliver. With assurance, it's about trust. You've heard the word from the very first presentation this morning. It's all about trust, and trust is a commodity like money. It's exchanged. You give trust and you receive trust. It is a two-way process. And without that being part of the process, without these 3 wonderful women trusting me that I wouldn't share all of their answers with each and every one of you, and that they would have the opportunity to share what they deemed appropriate, trust wouldn't be here. It's not to make a person feel bad, it's to make a person feel valued. It's about confidence. And the next one is empathy. Empathy was in that video from Cleveland Clinic. That was really all about putting yourself in that individual's place, feeling what they were feeling, wondering how you would feel if that were your problem or your family member. It's an element of caring that goes beyond just physical attention. And it's really being an active listener. And being an active listener is not when you're speaking to me thinking about what I'll say to you in response, but truly, truly listening. Listening to the point where they know that you are listening. Years ago, I had an experience where my 3, at that time, pre-teenage kids said they weren't going to talk to me anymore. They were only going to talk to their father. And I thought, what have I done wrong now? It's always something. And what they said was, when we're talking to you, Mom, on the phone, we can hear you typing 150 words a minute in the background. You're obviously not listening to us. And I said, test me. Repeat what you just asked me, and I'll repeat back to you every single word you said. And I did, verbatim. There was no question. I could repeat the process. But they're right. I wasn't engaged, and I wasn't present. It's like having a nurse on the ICU, and maybe she or he has 2 patients, and the school calls and says, your child fell and broke his arm. Where is his or her mindset? with how fast I can turf those patients onto somebody else and get to the school where I really want to be because my child is hurting and I want to be there for him or her. It's about being present in the moment. It's not a matter of having warm bodies to take up space. It's about having the best bodies in the room, to care each and every time, to give the power, to give the care, to resonate the spirit of CommonSpirit, and to do what is needed to be the very, very best. And then it's about responsiveness. It's about a timely response and positivity. It's about the tangible things, not just the appearance of the brick and mortar, although they will count, and you'll see why when we go back to that what's your pain level, but a commitment to maintaining that appearance. It's about having a singular voice and singing from the same sheet music, perhaps not the same tune because some of us don't carry a tune, but having a feeling, the Disney way, a smile on your face, sensing your interest and having people understand that you are in fact engaged with them, and then hearing your tone of voice and knowing that you, like you, share that passion. That's really what it's all about. It's about being clear, concise, correct, complete, and of course, always courteous. So we want to grow our market share, don't we? Healthcare is such a competitive business. I tell people that healthcare is a business like any other business, but the difference is the commodity with which we deal is human lives and human happiness, neither of which can ever, ever be compromised. We want to grow that market share, and we want to do it respectfully and in the best way possible. And we do that through building relationships with our people, because you heard from our panelists that people matter. This is a people-centered business. When we hire the right people, and we work with the right people and integrate them within a system where people care about people, those people provide good service, those people provide good care. And then the people for whom they're providing those goods and services, whether they're our vendors, our contractors, our maintenance people, our service providers, our caregivers, our management, or anyone else, want to come back for more because they feel welcome and comfortable, because they feel understood and appreciated, because they feel important and they know that they are respected. That's really what it's all about. It's about the people. When there are breakdowns, we have a recovery process. We listen, we discover, we listen carefully to what's wrong, we solve the problem, and we follow up in a timely manner to make sure that everything is okay. We don't just, glad that's done, but we follow up with those people and make sure that things are going well and that they feel whole. So let's talk a little bit more about what's your pain level. I'm rounding, and I say again to the neurosurgery patient, what is your pain level? And the patient turns to me, because this time the nurse is actually looking at the patient, and says 6, and that's the end of the discussion. Even though we all know that with metrics and more, and with payment systems and with satisfaction surveys, we need to look at those metrics and we need to look at those numbers. Because we exist in a culture in which we always want the best. We want to go to the 5-star movie. We want to go to the 5-star hotel. We want to take the best airline or belong to the best airline club. We want to go to the 5-star restaurant and get 5-star service, assuming that our budget can afford all of those stars. We're reaching for the stars, but we too want to be the 5-star provider, don't we? We want to be more than that provider of choice. We want to be the first choice. So who are the superheroes in your lives? When my grandson in Chicago was 6 years old, he grew up in a city in which you hear fire engines a lot, you hear police vehicles a lot, you hear emergency vehicles. If you're in downtown Houston, you hear a lot of the same. It's pretty constant. And when you grow up like that, you grow up realizing that perhaps the superheroes are not the people who you think are superheroes. They're not the Avenger, they're not Batman, they're not Robin, they don't have a cape, it's not Wonder Woman. It's not about Green Arrow. He was 6 years old and he said, Grandma, the real superheroes in life are the people who respond when we need them most. They are the people who work 24-hour shifts. They are the firemen and the policemen and the first responders. Those are the people in our lives who are here because they are super. You within your system also have superheroes. You have people all over your website They are your secret sauce. They're the people who are listed and pictured as making a difference. And there are so many of them that there are too many to include on a slide. But you should be so proud of those people. And if you don't go into your own portal and see who are these people, they're part of my tribe. They're part of my group. They're part of my team. They're part of our collective experience. And celebrate each and every one of them. When Harvey came to town, did you close your door and say, sorry, we're closed, we're not working today? It doesn't work that way, does it? You're the secret sauce in the room. You're the secret sauce in the city and in the county that provides the kind of service that people need and want each and every day of their lives. It doesn't stop with a storm. It doesn't stop with a hurricane. Think about the response from the Prime Minister of New Zealand over that horrific terrorist attack. Did she come to the rescue and take care of her people and initiate a process that needed to be initiated? Did she take action? Yes, because that's what real heroes do. They take action and they respond. They come together as a team and they deliver on the promise of what can be better and will be best. And it all works through that process because healthcare is a trusted profession. We all know, or if the rest of you don't know, nursing is the most trusted profession in the Gallup polls year after year after year. After I'd heard it 5 or 6 times, I actually went to that area, to the Gallup building, to see if there was really a building that came with the poll. I was so curious, does this thing really exist? Or is this just some sort of hype about how fantastic nurses are? Because nurses are fantastic people. We do a hard job. But we cannot do any of that without each and every one of you. We're all that trusted profession. We're all in this for the long haul together. We are here to make it happen and to make a difference because we know that we can. We know that we should, and we know that we can. Because service is a philosophy. It differentiates you, it's collaborative, it's communicative, and it can make you successful. It doesn't matter what department you're from, we're all needed to reach that success level. So let's talk tech for a minute because you realize that there are some issues related to IT and related to technology. I frankly could not function without a 10-year-old by my side. When I have a technical problem, I ask one of the grandsons. And I'm getting to the point where I'm asking a 7-year-old granddaughter because she seems to know more about everything than I could possibly know about anything. She's that worldly. But technology provides a sense of engagement. It keeps us connected. It's allowing you to respond to the poll. It's allowing you to respond to messages. It allowed my pharmacy friend in the back to respond to an immediate plea for some sort of hefty price for a drug. What was it, $160,000 and I need it now? That's a big price tag. It facilitates communication. It's about family and patient controls. It gives the patient and family access to your portal, access to health information that allows them to help take care of themselves and be partners in care. And it keeps us connected, does it not? So we measure success using various mechanisms. It's about metrics. It's about benchmarks. It's about these indicators that are people-centric, that allow us to communicate and to respond and to be part of the process. Because we've moved so far away from management by walking around to patient rounding that is either spontaneous or planned, but we are rounding. So now I'm going back to my patient. I'm rounding. Now what's your pain level? You might say to me, why is that piece of toilet tissue, if this is not an ad for Charmin, sitting on the wastebasket in front of the elevator in this hospital? That's the system hospital where I took my husband for knee surgery. One of the most renowned places on the whole East Coast. As we checked in and got to the elevator to go up to the surgical waiting room, that's what we saw. And by the way, you never call it a waiting room because then people know they're waiting. You're supposed to call it the reception area. It's much more engaging and much more positive. So we saw this piece of tissue standing there, or sitting there, and we thought, well, some people left after their shift at 7 a.m. But they must have walked by it because now it's 8 a.m. Some people came in for their shifts at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. Nobody bothered to take a paper towel or a tissue and move it from the corner into the can. Housekeeping people went by. The coffee shop was down the corner. The gift shop was right there. And the staff elevators were adjacent to these patient elevators, and nobody moved the thing. That's what happened with the neurosurgery patient. Hour after hour, day after day, people came in and said, how's your pain level? What's your pain level? What's your pain level? And not until his friend came to visit did his friend say, can I tidy up your room a little bit? It seems awfully messy. There were 4 coffee cups on his bedside counter, on the overbed table. On the bedside table itself, it was cluttered with newspapers and all kinds of things. Something had spilled and was left on the floor. And it took a visitor to say, can I tidy up your space? Our patient with pain was more concerned about his environment of care than about the physical knowledge that somebody was counting using metrics the level of his pain. He wanted somebody to look beyond the pain and beyond the person in the bed to the environment in which care is given, and to know that that too really matters. So when we take initiatives, it's not a new practice but a priority. Those initiatives are to do better on a pathway to excellence, to make sure that we have shared decision-making through the councils that you previously heard addressed. Because it's personal, folks. This is Texas. This is Houston. This is my home, not mine because I'm a native of San Antonio and Denton, but it feels almost like home because I got to come here a lot when nothing was in this area where we are today but a bunch of empty, grassy fields. But it's your home, and it's going to be home for so many. This is common. This is common purpose. This is common passion. And this is what exemplifies CommonSpirit, because that is really what it's all about. So who are those stakeholders? They're the consumers, they're the staff. The consumers are everybody, short-term, long-term, and more. The staff, every single one of you, plus all of your peers back home at those hospitals, keeping things going while you're here. Because every day, every way, if you think you belong in the room, you belong in the room. And that's not my line. That comes straight from Barbara Streisand. If you think you belong in the room, you belong in the room. So think it and be it. Because this is all about the world at work. It's about enhancing the work and the experience. It's about aligning cost and quality, and it's about delivering value-based care. It's not just how many likes did I get on social media, but it is about being trusted and being responsive. You know the movie. It doesn't have the same glamour as Level, but build it and they will come. When you build our type of a facility, when you build it, you nurture it, you engage them, and then they'll come, and they'll come back for more and more and more. And they'll tell everyone else to come and fill that room. So I had an exercise that I wanted you to do. I was going to give you each $75,000. Not really. But those yellow things on the table are meant to be gold. At the end of the program, I'd like you to take that, and I'd like you to write down what you would buy for your department if you had that pure gold. Something beyond what's in your budget, but something that you'd like to play with, that allows you to go beyond your regular expenses and your regular resources and do something else. At the end of the program, should we have time, I'm going to have you share them. But for now, we're going to move on to engagement, because it's really about the foundation of a successful organization: staff, patients, visitors, families, management. About a culture of appreciation and appropriate recognition for all. It's about putting the wow into your outcomes, making them so exceptional and so extraordinary that when somebody says to you, what business are we in? You don't have to think twice about the business you're in, because you know the business you're in. The business you're in is one of providing absolutely outstanding outcomes with the wow, no exceptions, every day, all the time. I know you have a saying within your system that if you see something, do something, you own it. We have a system like that on the Metro in DC. It's if you see something, say something. I think they have it at the airport as well. With you folks, it's if you see something, own it, or find somebody else to take care of it. That's what should have happened at the hospital in DC. Somebody should have done something about what they saw. They chose not to. You choose to live by this theory from the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. that says that our lives begin to end the moment that we become silent about things that matter. You and I, you and your peers, each of us in the system in healthcare today can no longer be silent about things that matter. That's what we do when we perform service excellence. That's the business that we're in. Because patient care, folks, is so much more than just healing, isn't it? It's not a band-aiding effect. It's building a connection that encompasses the mind, the body, and the spirit. And we all, each of us, own that experience. That's why we're here, because the shift is now, and all we see when we see a patient is you. This is the time for each of us to wow. We want to be exceptional. We want to put that wow back into those outcomes. So you have a handout on the tables with you that looks like this. I've been asked to direct you back to this. For my portion of the program, for next steps, you were supposed to list 3 top concerns about service excellence. The greatest asset that you bring, you're answering the same questions that they've answered. How do you deliver an exceptional experience? What one thing within your department needs improvement, and what's your wow? And then complete the Outcomes Action Plan, which is a 30, 60, 90-day plan. But for each of the other programs that you saw today, each of the other presenters had something within this handout that is homework for you to do. Not that you needed homework, but there is an incredible opportunity here to build on what you learned today, to build on what you heard, to practice what you've heard, and to take it to an entirely new level so that you understand the necessity for putting that wow back into that outcome, and for performing and for engaging and for providing that concept of service excellence each and every day, every way, and in every way possible. I want to ask you to join me in thanking these 3 ladies for participating in the program. They did not know in advance which questions they would be asked, and you did an outstanding job. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your program.